Obviously, start off by want to thank our ownership. Just to operate how we want to operate during the season. It starts with them, just their support, their belief, the resources they provide. It's not taken lightly. It's not overlooked. So much appreciation. Want to thank our players. Just everything that they had to put into it, their sacrifices, what they had to do to get ready on a regular basis. I have the utmost respect and appreciation for what they do, and I told them, I'll tell you, I'll tell everybody that's a special group in that locker room, and much appreciation for them. I thought Dan did a phenomenal job of preparing the team every week, week in and week out. I thought he did a phenomenal job navigating adversity when it did arise. I think from an identity standpoint, I do think that our opponents knew who they were getting ready to play when they were ready to face us each week. And, I think the road to Dan, he's a special leader, a special coach, and he's those things because he's a special human being. And just our whole coaching staff, really, just the countless hours that they put into from a preparation standpoint, teaching of players, developing players, the game plans every week. It's a lot that goes into it. So much appreciation to them. This was the first season where after we kind of did a revamp of our medical and performance staff this year, and I thought they did a phenomenal job. I couldn't have asked more. We couldn't have asked more for everything that they did. And our pro scouting department, the weekly advancement of our opponents, players being ready on deck whenever when we needed them. I thought they did a phenomenal job, and really our whole organization. I mean, it's too many names, it's too many people to name, too many departments to name. Our ops, wellness, video, equipment, dining, security, just everybody. Everybody knows what our culture is, and they all know that it's an all hands on deck effort. It's an all hands on deck process. So just much appreciation, thanks for everything that they put into it. And, our fans, look, I don't think there's any debate that we have the best fan base in the world. Hands down. I don't care what anybody says. Any sport. Look, they made Ford Field tough this year. They made it a tough environment to play, and even our road games, those road atmospheres, they made it. Just all due respect to all of our opponents, but I'll say this: we couldn't have asked more from them for what they did for us in terms of their travel, the sacrifices that they made. We were able to accomplish a lot this year. Division title, home playoff game, playoff win, all just been over 30 years to accomplish all of that. So just really a credit to all the fans for everything that they did. They truly did their part. And so much appreciation. Their support is not overlooked. So we want to thank them. And look, this is what I want to tell really our fans is, look, it's only going to get better, okay? We're only going to get better, all right? I don't want anybody to think that this was a one-shot Cinderella magical journey that just happened. No, it's real, all right? This is exactly what it was supposed to happen. And I understand that based on history, from what's happened in the past, like I understand you have a season like this, it's easy to feel like this was kind of a one-shot, magical, lucky, cute story, which I'm tired of hearing. It was none of that. It's easy to think that, but no, every move that me and Dan make, it has been made to sustain what we are building. All right, every single move, and I'll say every single move we make and every single move we do not make is to sustain what we have been building. So it's real. Look, it's all to normalize what we're doing, all right? This is to normalize it. This is an efforts to normalize it. Places Dan's been, it was normalized. Places I've been is normalized. That's why we're here. We're bringing this to normalize what this is right now, especially at least put all the efforts into normalizing this. But we love where we're at. This is supposed to be expected. It's a standard. We love the window that we're in. We just got finished with year 3. We're still building. We'll stick to our plan. We'll continue to put all our effort in to improve each year, which we've done, in my opinion, and we'll just stick to that. And look, I think we all know adversity that will always come. All right, adversity will always come. It arose, but that's why we're built on grit. All right, because we'll be ready for adversity because it's going to come regardless. And that's why we're always preaching grit, grit, grit. That's what we're built on. And look, we had injuries. We had injuries to our defensive backs. Gardner Johnson had suffered a big injury. You know, credit to him. He did a lot to battle back to help us out in the postseason. Emmanuel Mosley, you know, he worked his tail off to come back from really his first real major injury, and you know, got another one when he first stepped on the field. Bad luck, you know, it happened, but that did open doors for others. You know, I thought Vildor did a nice job when he was called on to step up. You know, Ife Melifonwu, he had got his chance, and he did a really nice job to step up. But you know, just talking to the fans, I just want them to know that, you know, over the next few months, you know, don't get spooked this spring by speculation or negative talk or, you know, the entertainment news feed. Don't get spooked by that to not think that we can't build and sustain what we've been building, all right? Don't get spooked by that. And I totally get it. The next few months, it's a lot of speculation and it's a lot of opinions and people don't know what's going to happen. But, you know, I just hope that but they know that every year we have not led them astray. Dan and myself, we've been very upfront and straight with everybody and said, look, again, every move is intentional. Every move that we make, again, every move we do not make is intentional, you know. And I'll even go back to, you know, the past drafts that we've had, you know, every single pick, free agency, every signing, it is very intentional. So I don't want the fans' joy to be derailed. They should be proud of their football team because the fans have earned it and the fans deserve it. But, you know, and also I want them to know that over the next few months, every move that we make, it's to win in December. It's not to win March, April, and May, which it's easy to do. You can, if that's your aim, you can win headlines. You can win March, April, and May, but no, everything is intentional, and it may not look, it may look strange. It may look like, well, why'd they do this? Why? Trust me, it is to win in December. And so that's why we made the moves that we have made. And look, the reality is this, look, everyone can't play here, all right? Everyone can't play for the Detroit Lions. And that's just a reality. That's just a standard that has been set. But, and look, I'll go back to the 2021 draft, all right? So the 21 draft, each pick from that draft was very intentional. And the reason why I go back to that draft, a couple reasons. For one, it was 2021, all right? We just finished the 2023 season. So that's when you're supposed to grade a draft, not the day after a draft. So, but when you look back at those picks, and those picks were not welcome by many in this room. You know, Dave, you want us to pick a quarterback. You didn't want us to pick Penei Sewell. You know, people didn't want us to wait till the 4th round to draft a wide receiver. People didn't want to wait on a Derek Barnes to develop. But every single move was intentional and was made with intention, you know. But also for reasons of what people might not say about, or what people might say about not sustaining, look, they might say schedule, they might say, oh, we don't have all the picks. Look, back in 2021, we did not have multiple ones. We did not have multiple twos. We did not have 4 picks in the first 100, you know. Now, we did have that, and we used those wisely. You guys didn't agree, but we used those picks wisely. But we had one extra pick in 2021. We had a comp third. That was Iffy Melifonwu. Carlos, I know you said that was a miss, but that was the only extra. That was the only extra pick. So what I'm saying is, that's not required to sustain what we built going forward. So, just want to make sure that the fans just know. Look, we always said we'll draft, develop, sign our own, build through the draft, and we're just living that right now. So. Just want to make sure the fans to stick with us. We got you. The fans have done their part. Keep doing your part. We'll keep doing our part. It's much appreciated. Again, it may look strange at times, but just take the marshmallow test with us, and delay some of the headline entertainment in March, April, and May, and really enjoy it in December, because that's why we're doing what we're doing. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Questions?
We talked to Dan last week, and he said the core is built here.
Yes.
And a lot of guys can evaluate talent in this league, but it's not just about bringing in talented guys. They have to fit here. You just alluded to that, too, in your opening comments. What is that process? What does that mean? What does that player look like that's not a talented player, but fits what you guys have already built here and what you want to see moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. Like I tell that to our scouts. Like, we have to get past just looking for the most talented player. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's the prerequisite of evaluation. That's who's the fastest, who's the strongest, who's got the most height. That's very coherent thing to do. No, it's how do you find the right intangibles in a football player? And that's what's made us who we are. And that's what I was saying about that 2021 class. That was very intentional to find those guys that had the intangibles. It's not that, we waited till the fourth round to pick a wide receiver. No, we wanted St. Brown. He had the intangibles that we were looking for to set our foundation. And so, and look, a lot of those guys, they're eligible for extensions now, and a handful of them are, but again, it just goes back to what we build and being very intentional about our intangibles and what we're looking for in Detroit Lions.
For the record, I like Sewell. I did like some quarterbacks at the top.
No, you want us to pick quarterback.
Not looking at Sewell, but regardless. Can you speak to just some of the challenges that come with where you're at this point? Is different than when you took over, right? Like, you do have to pay some guys. You do have to, you're picking later in the draft. So how does that, I know you still have the plan, right? But how does that make things different in terms of how you approach?
It's going to be the same exact process. It's going to be the same exact plan. We're going to be very strategic, very selective. We're going to look for the same type of players. Again, it doesn't need to be. I know I referenced, when we've had, multiple ones, and so now we're picking later back. Actually, that's exciting for me. That's like, man, it's kind of back to, I think, 21 draft. The other reason why I love that draft is, like, there was, like, no combine. You know what I mean? It was like you either had to know the film and pick the right players or not, and actually know the player and have the right intangibles, where I think, back there you're picking football players. And we're always picking football players. It's just that when we pick football players high, y'all have bashed us, but we'll still continue to pick football players in the guys as for us. So really, it doesn't change. Will it be different? Yes, it will be different. It maybe not be as many high-price external ads, but that's not required right now. So we'll just still keep sticking to our plan and go as normal. And I think it's proven that it's worked so far for us.
Great fact that you have to pay your own at some point. You maybe just alluded to that. How does that impact what you can or can't do in free agency, or maybe even what you want?
Look, it's one pot. it's one, it's one pot. So you got to be very strategic of how those finances. That's what makes the league as great as it is. But you got to be very, very strategic of how that pot is divided up, or divvied up. But we'll be smart, and we'll make the right moves. But yeah, it just changes the landscape a little bit in free agency. Yeah, I think back our first free agency, we didn't have any real resources to spend, and we had to be very selective and try to, find an Alex Anzalone or a Khalif Barnes and all those guys. I mean, a Khalif Raymond, but and then last year we had a little bit more resources, and we're able to get a Cam Sutton and a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This year will be a little bit different, but we'll be smart.
Brad, you said you don't want.
You look at this football team, and it's a Final Four team.
Eric, I'll get to your question. Go ahead.
Yep, Final Four team. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, where do you think the team needs to improve so that they can take the next step and be Lombardi Trophy candidates potentially?
I mean, we look to improve every single year. I don't think it's like one specific area. I think that's when you kind of run into danger there is when you think, you're good at something and you don't need to work on it anymore. So we'll always be kind of sharpening our tools in every area. And I don't think you can ever be perfect. There's no such thing. So we'll just kind of continue to look to improve in every area, and we will. And we've already started that process. And but again, where we ended up, it's expected. It'll be expected, heading in this year. Like the way you framed that question, Super Bowl. That was a disappointment. That we didn't make it. And that, again, that wasn't man, we got lucky. That's what we expected, and fell short, but still accomplished a lot. But we'll improve in every area.
We'll talk a little bit about one of the leaders, Jared Goff, and his team. I mean, when you brought him in, he was probably one of the few people who actually believed that he can achieve this type of success. I mean, talk about what you saw out of him this season, any growth or just the belief or what he's been able to do, and just his future here as well. Have you started any conversations with that as far as with Jared Goff?
Yeah, well, I mean, we meet with all of our players, whether, a player that's eligible for an extension or player that's an upcoming free agent. That's very paramount in our organization is a communication standpoint. But, in terms of Jared, look, I've always had belief in Jared. You guys have always heard me that. I don't think, I don't know what more needs to be said from a leadership or performance standpoint or what more he needs to do in that regard. But in terms of the belief, as always, I think I said this to you guys before, is that, he got drafted in 16 and, he wasn't a full-time starter, but 17 was his first year as a full-time starter and he made the playoffs. And, got exited versus the Falcons that year, but the second year as a full-time starter, he went to a Super Bowl. And what I didn't understand why his career was defined after he went to a Super Bowl a second year as a full-time starter. And so then when he came to us, I always had belief. So him doing what he did this past year or even the year before, it's not a surprise to us. I just know how he's wired. I know the talent he has. I know the leadership he has. I know his mental and physical toughness. I know what he's made about. And I think his peers and definitely his teammates recognize the same thing. So just happy that what he's done and, just couldn't be more proud of everything he's achieved.
Right. You mentioned characteristics.
Go ahead, Justin. Well, Carlos, go ahead, and then Justin.
You mentioned the defense and some of the injuries that you guys dealt with. One of the popular beliefs I think out there is that the reason the defense it's improved this year, but it hasn't reached the elite level that the offense has, is because of the talent level discrepancy.
Yep.
Do you believe that there is a discrepancy in the talent level, and how do you close that? Yeah.
I don't know about a discrepancy. I'll say this: it's not like if players have achieved more offensively, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't. Let me make sure that the guys we select on defense don't achieve this or what the guys achieved on offense. But I kind of see it a little bit different. You may look at some names that may look a little bit more appealing, names that y'all have clamored for us to acquire in the past. But I do think that our players on defense played well together, and they worked well together, and they were a resilient group. And I think we have a lot of good starters, and we have a lot of guys that have a lot of upside. We have a lot of young players on defense. And look, we play an aggressive style. I think there's no question on our identity, but but I don't really see like there's a big discrepancy of talent. It's just, we're just kind of working together, but it's a total team effort, Carlos. It's, we don't look at defense different than we look at offense. We don't look at special teams different. We're trying to build a team, and I know everybody wants everything to be paired. You have a Pro Bowl pass rusher that double-digit sacks and 100 pressures. Everybody wants to pair the pass rusher with somebody. You have a D tackle that's was on his way before he got hurt to potentially a Pro Bowl season and sacks. You want to pair him with that guy. You have a promising young safety. You want to pair him with you. Everybody wants to, and trust me, that's what we want too. We want the same thing. We want not only the frontline depth of all 11 stars, but we want all the depth to be really, really quality, and that's what we strive to do. And sometimes when you strive to have really quality depth on defense, you might have to sacrifice some names, because like I tell you guys all the time, you can get excited about what the depth chart looks like in April and May, in June, but I always think about what's it going to look like in November. And so there's a balance when you want to add quality depth, and sometimes you might have to have some guys that might not be as high dollar players, but we have belief in our coaches, in terms of our development of our players, and a lot of those guys got better. So I'm not really concerned about it.
I want to ask you about the concept of loyalty. I think it's kind of been a tenet of your tenure here, just the way you stick with guys through maybe some rough spots, even down to your practice squad guys often stick through this roster for the full year. In his postseason comments, Dan was talking about just not getting emotionally attached to guys as you kind of reach these higher levels. So I'm wondering, as a GM, just your balance of really believing in guys, knowing they're Lions guys, but knowing there's an opportunity to maybe get better, and the importance of new blood in pursuing a continued success and higher goals.
Yeah, that's a fair question, Justin. Look, I think that comes down to the communication aspect that I was speaking to prior. Look, we don't believe in handouts. We're a culture of accountability and a culture of earning it. And our communication with all our players is there's going to be competition. Even conversations that we had with guys that we want to come back, we tell them all the time there's going to be competition. I think those guys understand that. So and that's what we do. The best person. It's a meritocratic approach in terms of the best is going to be the best. The best is going to be number one. The second best is going to be number two. And I think our players understand that, and I think our players respect that. Me and Dan are always honest about that. So we don't undermine or overlook the contributions that they've put in the past. And yeah, there's a little bit of emotional attachment because we've seen how those guys have grinded over the years, but they're well aware that we're in the business of improving and upgrading and adding competition, and that's what makes teams better is better competition.
You said at the start of your comments that people shouldn't view this as a one-shot Cinderella magical run. Have you sensed that from people? Because everything, it seems to me now, it's like Super Bowl or bust for the Lions. I don't think, unless you're hearing it from somewhere else, do you think people still wonder about the authenticity of what you've built here?
No, I don't say that. I just don't want anybody to be worried about that, because I do know that you go from not making the playoffs to being in the NFC Championship, and I can see, again, like I said, based off history, I can see the human being and the naturalness of one could think that. But I just want to just reassure the fans that no, what you saw this year is real. It wasn't some magical thing. Stone, you had a question?
There's a perception out there that you guys are 1 year ahead of schedule. When did you realize that perception is wrong and that you're good enough to do it now?
I never. I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember when we first got here, everybody was wondering kind of how long this was going to take, how long is this going to be, and I remember I used the word retool and I got killed because I probably should use the word rebuild, but they were wondering how long the build's going to take, and I never wanted to put a time stamp on it or an anchor. a time anchor on it because I said, look, we're just going to do our job, roll our sleeves up, and work to improve every single day. And that's what we did. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, we are ahead of schedule because I don't know what that original timestamp should have been in the first place. But I do know we love where we are at, and I believe we are at exactly where we're supposed to be.
Brad, a lot of players after the game talked about how using that loss as motivation going forward, coming up short. I'm just curious, does that show up in your work at all? Do you motivated by that loss? And as a GM, I guess, how does that translate into your work?
Yeah, it does. I'd say it's times even, last year when it got really dark, we were 1-6, I was just like, man, like, just watch, like, just watch, like, we're going to get better. And coming up short, it is fuel, and it is going to be another, just watch. Like, again, like I said, this wasn't a Cinderella journey. Like, we're going to do what we have to do to make sure that we're going to, prove it and earn it. It is fuel that I use for myself, and I'm a pretty self-motivated guy. I think I am. I don't really need a lot of extra fuel, but when stuff like that happens, I think it's very human it drives you to another level.
Brad, does your evaluation change from regular season on what you need for next year to playoff afterward? Is there a different evaluation that you had at the end of the season to end of the season against San Francisco, which you played the best team in the conference? Are your evaluations changed? Like, I'm asking, does the playoff run give you more perspective on what you have and what you need to get over that last hump?
That's a fair question. Not really. I've always have a good sense. Like I say all the time, my job is to have a foot in the present and a foot in the future at all times, and that's what I pride myself on doing. And so, regardless of how sunny or dark things are, midpoint in the season or late in the season or in a playoff run, I'm always looking for, this is what we need to do right now, but this is what we also have to do in the future, and that really doesn't really change, really.
With the NFL draft coming to Detroit, what does that mean for this community and for the outside, the non-Detroit community, to have a window into what's Detroit look like?
Yeah, I'm excited about having the draft. I've always one of the things when we moved here, I was shocked downtown Detroit. I love downtown Detroit. I think downtown Detroit is ideal to host a Super Bowl if the weather permitted. I just think it's an awesome downtown. It's one of the better ones that I've been around, and that's why I love the fact that us hosting the draft is going to give, hopefully not only Detroit but the world a glimpse of kind of what our city is all about. And, and hopefully us hosting the draft means something, because that's what our team has been built upon, really, is the draft and through the draft. And so I think it's going to mean a lot on a lot of different levels. But I'm just excited that, our city is going to get the recognition and the world's going to see. I just know that we're picking later, so they're going to be waiting to see if our pick, and if we trade out of the first round, then I'll just send a memo.
Right now, first he was kind of introspective at the end of the season when he did his end of season press conference here. Have you talked to him? Or are you worried about retirement at all with him? And then two, you've always been sort of like a feed the beast guy, right? That offensive line has been really good for you. You have a couple of free agents there, right? How's injuries? Decker last year was contract. Just how important is it to continue stacking that position?
It's extremely important. Extremely important. And look, Ragnow, it's only one of them on the planet. In my opinion. So, but I have so much respect for him and for everything that he goes through and fights through that, I'm just respectful of his time and his thoughts. And, we're not going to, pressure him to do anything or make any moves, but the communication will be diligent. It'll be thorough. It'll be respectful. But just that's what our team is. I mean, our offensive line, us being able to, protect the quarterback and run the football like we do. It's extremely important. And so that's definitely going to be one that that'll be an area that will not be overlooked. As good as it has been in the past, just those points that you've raised, it's definitely going to be a point of emphasis still.
Brad, you were talking about that.
Eric, Sean, and John. One question on the draft. Obviously, when you made the picks last year, that's probably the most criticism that you received out of the previous 2 draft classes. And you see what they were able to do. It might have been your best draft class. Like, as you're seeing those guys progress, playing the roles that they're playing, how did that make you feel? And how does it make you feel when you make a decision that isn't well received by everybody, but still standing on your 2 toes and going forward? I mean, just making
By everybody or you included?
No, I mean just anybody. I ain't really have a. I ain't say too much today. Deal what they did. So. But just going forward, picking those guys, giving them criticism, and going forward as well.
Yeah. Well, you look. I'm not up here to give I told you so's. I will say that I told you so was when we selected the player. Is that we'll always, as long as Dan and I are convicted in selecting these players, you sleep like a baby, and we slept like a baby after we selected those players, and all the criticism that came and transpired the day after the draft or the week after the draft. It's always you can't be a prisoner of the moment. You can't let that affect you. You just gotta go through the post-draft storm, and kind of just weather through it. And just like I told you guys, after the draft, I said, look, OTAs will be here soon. People forget about the draft. Training camp will be here soon. People forget about the draft. But me and Dan had all the confidence in the world on those players. They did what we expected them to do. Those players that we selected. Those were our favorite players in the draft. I know it was a big thing about like tight end. I think it's been on record that Sam Laporta was our number 1 tight end. No, he was one of our favorite players in the entire draft. So when you have that kind of conviction on players, you can sleep good. And look, like I said about grade the 2021 draft, like grade that. Like now the guys have developed. Guys may have had injuries early, come back like that. That's where you should grade guys, not right after. And I told everybody, look, they may not understand, they may not feel great about it right now, right after the draft, but I told them that they'll like it when football starts being played. And I want the fans to always know that when we have a draft, we have free agency, we acquire players, we didn't forget. Like we didn't forget how to draft. We didn't forget how to acquire players. We didn't forget how to be strategic and selective in our process. Like we didn't forget, but that's not entertaining to write about that stuff. Entertaining for the criticism. Oh, that's a D, that's an F. Oh, man, what are they doing? That's entertaining. It's clicks, and I don't undermine that. I don't undermine whether it's free agency, draft. I don't overlook. It's the entertainment business. And I don't overlook the entertainment of, fans want to, click on the stuff it's newsworthy, saying that, man, the Detroit Lions, they're very intentional, very careful and selective with their picks, and these are, but that's not gonna get the clicks, But I'm very happy for what those guys did, and they did what we expected them to do, and even more excited as they enter year 2, because those guys will be better next year.
Sort of staying with that, do the bad grades, you were talking about fuel and motivation, do they motivate you? I mean, you kind of came in here with receipts a little bit today, it seems like.
No, I just look. My only thing is
that's not a criticism. I'm just saying. I mean, it seems like you're enjoying it a little bit.
No. It's. I'll say this. I'm big on accountability, and I think y'all would expect me to be accountable when I'm up here. When things don't go right, you would expect me to be accountable, and I am. I feel I'm a very accountable person. I think when you heard so much negativity about our draft, and then when I said, look, wait till they start playing football, it'll be appreciative. When they started playing football and people started giving them credit, the negativity kind of just, everybody forgot about it. Nobody, I give probably 2 people credit in this room that said, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong. And I appreciate that and I respected that. But just the other about, you knew they were wrong, and then oh man, these rookies are playing so well. Or you hear many people gave him backlash, or, oh man, there were some people that, no, it wasn't many, it was you. You arenas are like, no, you gave him backlash. And so just having accountability, that's all it is. But again, like I said, I'm not here I told you so. Again, I told you so was when we selected the players. You just got to get through the post-draft wave.
Are you surprised that your coordinators are both back? Did you expect one of them to be a head coach? If I'd asked you a few weeks ago, you thought they'd all be back.
Yeah,
And what does that continuity do for what you're trying to do here?
It's everything. Continuity is everything. And, they're great coaches. They're great coaches. They're very smart. They're great leaders. They're developers. They're teachers, and they fit here. But, fortunate. I'm glad that they're back. I know we're a better team with that continuity. But I have all the trust and faith in Dan as well. And the one thing I'll say about, those guys, being back is I think it says a lot about our organization. And I think that's a part that, wasn't really talked about as much was, yes, you got 2 talented coordinators, jobs open up. They had to take those jobs, right? Well, they got damn good jobs here. They do. I know it's all the stuff written about, Ben. And Ben, it's a great culture here. We got a great head coach. We got great ownership. We got a great offense. We got great players on offense. It's a great deal. So, and I'm not speaking for Ben. I don't know what his thoughts, but and that's the other thing is you got to just give people respect of the unknown. You don't know what goes through their decisions, and their decision-making process and all that. But very, very fortunate, and I do think it speaks a lot for our organization.
Just to follow up, how does that help you make free agent pitches? I mean, how much easier is this destination to sell? To free?
It helps. It helps a little, obviously, with the continuity. You can say, hey, look, what you saw on film this past year would be similar system, and when, new players are acquired, to sit down with those guys. But again, it all starts with Dan, so, as long as Dan is here, then I feel really good about, whoever we bring in from a free agency standpoint. But